Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about the state of ship, which is it's an excerpt from Plato's The Republic. And I also want to talk about the true meaning of the word government, because we have been lied to from the time we started school, basically, as little children, about what these terms actually mean. This is the basis of brainwashing. Okay, so let's start. Government. The act or process of governing, especially the control and administration of public policy in a political unit. Now, if you guys watched the last video, I was talking about administration and public policy, and specifically a political unit, otherwise known as a body corporate, corporation, administration. Where was it? There we go. Administration. The act or process of administering, the management and disposal under court authority of the estate of a deceased person, that being you, the debtor, that's your dead estate, by an executor or administrator, that is the Vatican. Okay, the management of an estate as of a minor by a trustee or guardian appointed to take charge of it. Okay? Again, they're the trustee. They are the trustee of your equity, of your estate. Okay. Let's go back to government. Now, if we click on government, we can see they tell you it's based on a kind of constitution, something like that. You can read all the rest if you'd wish. I suggest everyone go and do it, but I want to specifically point out something that is very important. And it goes with the word government from which it derives from. Kubernau, which is in Bulgarian kurmil, meaning steering wheel, meaning to steer, with a gubernaculum, a rudder. Do you understand? A rudder. Ship. Okay. The metaphorical sense being attested in the literature of classical antiquity, including Plato's Ship of State. In British English, government sometimes refers to what's also known as ministry or administration. The policies and government officials of a particular executive or governing coalition. Finally, government is also sometimes used in English as a synonym for rule or governance. In other words, dominion over your estate. Now, if we look at the word gubernaculum, a gubernaculum is, in classical reference, describes a ship's rudder, a steering oar. Maritime law, everyone. The English word government is related to this word. The Old English word governal and the Scots word gurnal are both derived from it. Okay? It is a ship. It is a ship. This is the ship. This is the ship. Imagine that this being the city of London, this being Washington, D.C., and this being the Vatican. You are in here. All of the corporate structures that exist are within this ship. Okay? You're in the ocean. You're in the water. You're not in land jurisdiction under these governments. Okay, let's keep going. The ship of state, from which government comes from. Let's see what they say. The ship of state is an ancient and oft-cited metaphor, famously expounded by Plato in the Republic, which likens the governance of a city-state to the command of a vessel, a ship, everyone. City-state. What was a city-state? Well, there are 3 city-states that we were talking about. Let's pop them out right now so I can show you. City of London. Okay. The City of London is a city ceremonial country. In other words, a city-state. Washington, D.C., formerly known as the District of Columbia, is the capital city of the United States Corporation. They're not going to tell you that, but it's a corporation. It is a city-state. The Vatican. Vatican City. Independent city-state. Okay. I'm going to close these so we don't get confused. Okay. I want to read the metaphor. Plato's use of the metaphor. One side note about Plato. Plato is the incarnation of Thoth. Thoth being, I opened it here, this guy. This is Plato. This is the consciousness that Plato is. I don't suggest anyone listen to what Thoth has to say, but it again is your choice. But this is the entity that basically created the entire system that we're on. It comes from an entity called Jehovah, a lot higher up in the scale. That's a really small side note. I'm not going to get into that because that's a very long story. But all the Platonic solids, everything associated with Thoth and Plato, a lot of fallen angelic stuff. That's all I got to say about that. Okay. Plato establishes the comparison by saying that Zeus was one of the best models of describing the steering of a ship as just like any other craft or profession, in particular that of a statesman. He then runs the metaphor in reference to a particular type of government, democracy. Plato's democracy is not the modern notion of a mix of democracy and republicanism, but rather direct democracy by way of pure majority rule. In the metaphor found at 488a through 489d in Plato's The Republic, Plato's Socrates compares the population at large to a strong but nearsighted shipowner whose knowledge of seafaring is lacking because you don't know how to read the signs. And the signs being the hieroglyphs in the other videos that I've been explaining. The quarreling sailors are demagogues and politicians, and the ship's navigator, a stargazer, is the philosopher. The sailors flatter themselves with claims to knowledge of sailing, though they know nothing of navigation, because you don't know how to read the signs, and are constantly vying with one another for the approval of the shipowner so to captain the ship, going so far as to stupefy the shipowner with drugs and wine. Meanwhile, they dismiss the navigator as a useless stargazer, though he is the only one with adequate knowledge to direct the ship's course. Now, if people that are aware of what is going on and what kind of system we are living in and under, Those are the stargazers in this case. They are the philosopher that no one listens to. Okay? And when you flatter yourself by your knowledge of sailing, it is talking about this. Where was it? This. A law enacted by the plebs or commonalty. That is, the citizens, with the exemption of the patricians and the senators. Now, if the patricians are the philosophers in this case, and they know what's going on, who is the actual captain? Well, the actual captain that you're trying to flatter is this. Okay? The patricians are here, and they're the nobles. They're the ones that are controlling this. They have access to the equity, and they have right to say what goes on here. Okay? Let's go back. I think we understood this. I'm not going to read the whole metaphor here, the actual one. If anyone wants to go and actually break it down, it might confuse people even more. So I read the simplified version so everyone understands what's going on. Okay. Now, if we look up Plato, the Republic, legal fiction. Now, legal fiction, we'll talk about that in exactly 1 minute. This is what shows up. A noble lie, again from the Republic. Let's read what it means. In politics, a noble lie is a myth or a lie, typically of religious nature, knowingly propagated by an elite to maintain social harmony or advance an agenda. I'll read that again. Advance an agenda. The noble lie is a concept originated by Plato, aka Thoth, which if you read about Thoth, you'll know what this entity is, as described in the Republic. In religion, a pious fiction is a narrative that is presented as true by the author, but is considered by others to be fictional, albeit produced with an altruistic motivation. The term is sometimes used pejoratively to suggest that the author of the narrative was deliberately misleading readers for selfish or deceitful reasons. The term is often used in religious contexts, sometimes referring to passages in religious texts. Okay? Plato presented the noble lie in the fictional tale known as the myth or parable of the metals in Book 3. In it, Socrates provides the origin of the three social classes who compose the Republic, proposed by Plato. Socrates speaks of a socially stratified society as a metaphor for the soul, wherein the populace are told a sort of Phoenician tale. What this is talking about is this. Okay? It is this. It is the allegory of the cave. You guys are here with all of the petitions that you are writing, with all of the referendums of any sort. You are legitimizing these people. So what is going on is this. All of these corporations that are masquerading as actual sovereign nations and governments, or assemblies, let me correct myself, are here. All of the propaganda that you're getting is here. And it is just a fake, artificial, legal fiction. A fictionalized world that you're living in. Now, this goes a lot deeper into the actual material basis that we are experiencing right now. It is de facto a hologram. but that is a whole different story, and it's also functioning on two different spirals. But if we look at this, what is being described in this noble lie is the fact that they are tricking you into believing that you are artificial, that everything around you is artificial. Okay? And this is done for your benefit, of course, because they're the elites and they're here and they know exactly what's going on. And all they're showing you is just a whole bunch of shadows, a whole bunch of legal fictions, a whole bunch of false manifestation spirals, the Fibonacci spiral. I suggest everyone do research into the difference between the crystal spiral and the Fibonacci spiral. These are two different manifestation templates. They know what this is about. Thoth was the guy who actually was the entity that is part of this Fibonacci spiral disaster that we're in right now. Now, if you go into the real realm of understanding, the true original light, imagine it like this. You are the source of equity. The Christos within you is the actual gold. And you are that. You are part of that. That is what your true essence is and your true being. But they are forcing you to accept something that is completely false. It is a shadow of who you are. You have not even experienced the real light. That is the spiritual sun. Whereas in the actual sun is this. Okay. Now let's go a little deeper. Let's look at the word homo in the meaning that it has with, and the relation it has with Homo sapien. Homo in the law dictionary, Black's Law Dictionary. A man, a human being, male or female, a vassal. Why is this so important? A vassal, or feudal attendant, attainer, dependent, or a servant. Okay? Very important thing I want to show you. Human being. This is the actual definition of a human being. When you say human being and they refer to you as human being, a lesser, inferior man or woman defined legally as an animal or monster, as distinct from the ancient pre-Vatican Roman term homeo, man. Now this man is different from this man. This is talking about this upper portion right here, not this. A key role of law from the 14th century describing a fundamental legal fiction. That is the notion of an inferior man or woman as an animal, as defined by the papal decree, and therefore not subject to the laws of free men, but the laws of property. You're under the administration. You are functioning here. The decision to create a second word for homo, man, denoting, and they never finished the actual definition. But there are two homo mans. This is the actual definition that you are referring to when you say human being. And when you say yet you are a citizen, you are a legal fiction. Now let's go forward. What is a monster as defined by Black's Law Dictionary? A prodigious birth. A human birth or offspring not having the shape of mankind, which cannot be heir to any land, albeit it be brought forth in marriage. Cannot be heir to any land. Remember what the administration does? The management of an estate by a trustee or guardian appointed to take charge. The management or disposal under court authority of the estate of a deceased person by an executor or administrator. Remember what we were talking about in the other video? You're dead here. You're a legal fiction. The administrator has all of your equity. You are a slave. You are the guy who is moving the oars on the ship. The guy who's getting whipped on the ship. You are not a passenger. You do not have any rights. You are dead. But you need to know how to learn to read the signs. Once you read the signs, you can understand what all this means. What is a zombie, according to Black's Law Dictionary? A company that is insolvent but continues to operate. This is done before reconstructing or a bailout occurs. This is done before restructuring or a bailout occur. Okay. It's a company because you are a debtor. You're dead. Remember? Companies don't think. You cannot read, so you're a corpus, dead body, that is insolvent. You're not functioning anymore, but continues to somehow operate. Well, yeah, that's exactly what a zombie does. You're functioning through your life, right? You pay taxes, you do this, you move around, but you're not conscious, clearly. You're not conscious. You don't know how to read, and only conscious beings know how to read. Remember? Where was it? Words are indicators of mind and thought. Dog Latin. Creditor. You need to read. It needs to have structure, guys. Let's keep going. Droit de bris. A right formerly claimed by the lords of the coasts of certain parts of France to shipwrecks, because they're stealing your energetic and mineral energy wealth, the physical one too. You're shipwrecked, by which not only the property but the persons of those who were cast away were confiscated by the prince who was the lord of the coast. Okay. Droit de quint. A relief payable by a noble vassal to the king as his seigneur on every change in the ownership of his fief. Okay, what is this saying? Well, what's a vassal? Let's look up what a vassal is. A person who held land for a feudal lord, received protection in return for homage and allegiance. Well, what are you doing right now, guys? You pay taxes and they give you some kind of welfare, Social Security, ENG in Bulgarian. But you're a slave. You are a slave. You are a vassal. A vassal. Okay? A servant. With the legal fiction name. Legalis homo. A lawful man. A person who stands rectus in cura. A person outlawed. That's kind of weirdly written. Excommunicated or infamous. It occurs in the phrase. I'm not going to read that because that's in Latin. It's too hard to read. Good and lawful men, competent jurors. And legally designates the condition of such a man. I guess they didn't write it correctly here. But if we look up what a corporation soul is, a corporation soul. Now this soul is not the soul that is connected to your body, your actual soul, the part of you that is your consciousness. A corporation soul is a legal entity consisting of a single soul. Incorporated office. This soul is your physical you, the one that you are here, right? The one that's thinking. The incorporated office is the voodoo doll. It is the straw man, occupied by a single soul natural person. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't read that correctly. So the soul, this soul, is the incorporated office. This is the voodoo doll. This is the legal fiction. This is the card, the identification card, which is occupied by a single natural person. This is the living you, the one that's alive, the one that's thinking. This structure allows corporations, often religious corporations, the Vatican, or Commonwealth governments, to pass without interruption from one office holder to the next, giving positions legal continuity with subsequent office holders having identical powers and possessions of their predecessors. Okay. Aggregate and soul. What is this talking about? A corporation soul is one consisting of one person only, persona, mask, and a successor in some, in particular station, who is incorporated by law in order to give them legal capacities and advantages, particularly that of perpetuity, which in their natural persons they could not have had. This is talking about the legal laws that you have, civil laws. In this sense, the sovereign in England is a sole corporation. So is a bishop. So are some dean's districts from their several chapters, and so is every parson and vicar. That's confusing, but you get the point. Let's keep going. Legal fiction. Maybe we should have talked about this a little bit earlier, but better late than never. Believing or assuming something not true is true. They tell you what a legal fiction is. Believing or assuming something not true is true. Well, you're not a legal fiction. You are the living man. And the right living man. Okay? Not the second, the first. The pre-Vatican man. Where was it? Remember? A noble lie? Believing something true, that is not true to be true? Yeah, that's what it's talking about. In politics, a noble lie is a myth or lie typically of religious nature, knowingly propagated by an elite to maintain social harmony or advance an agenda. Crazy, right? Yeah. Allegory of the cave. Okay. I think we're going to stop it at that. About the entire system with government and what government actually means, what citizen actually means, what Plato's ship actually is talking about. Again, guys, I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to keep saying it. If you keep saying you are a citizen, you are a pleb. This is the lowest class. You are a debtor when you say you are a citizen. Please understand that. Any referendum that you do or make, any petitions, you are only legitimizing their false system that is based on a lie. It is based on a legal fiction. On a legal fiction. Believing or assuming something not true is true, okay? Anytime you're trying to actually sue any of these institutions, you are functioning with the legal fiction name. And you're going into the underworld. That's the whole point of the bar. When you go into a courtroom and the judge or the magistrate is wearing black and they tell you, okay, I'm going to use my name, Edward Zhivkovradev, go forward. Is this you? Are you here? And you raise your hand and you're like, yep, that's me. They're like, perfect. You're in our jurisdiction now. You're dead. That is why they're wearing black. You're going into a tomb. They are mourning your deaths. And when you cross the bar, you are entering on the ship. That is the bridge, the bar of the ship. You are entering the ship. You are entering their jurisdiction. These are contracts, guys. Do not enter into their contracts, or you're going to be in really big trouble and danger. Okay? It's about understanding what the signs mean. The signs I'm talking about are these. The sign language. The sign language. Where was it? The sign language. This is not your name. Okay, I'm going to stop it at that. We're going to be talking about how the documents are structured. why the boxes around all of your birth certificates and all of your IDs and any type of the referendums or anything like that they're doing, why it basically means that there's nothing on the page. If it's in a box, it means that there's nothing on the page. Think of it like a post-it note. You write whatever it is you're writing on the post-it note, but it's not on the actual paper. That's what the boxes represent. We're going to be talking about that next. That's from a document by Sarah Whitty. Okay, we're going to end it there.